Hey guys, I'm Becky from Book Bite Reviews, and welcome to my December wrap-up. I apologize if you can hear water in the background. My husband has decided to take a shower while I'm filming. Today I will be going over all the books that I read in December to complete my Goodreads challenge. So if you watched my December TBR video, then I'll be mentioning all 10 of those books that I mentioned in that one, as well as the books that I actually read in order to finish my challenge. First up, I have Lies You Never Told Me by Jennifer Donaldson. This book was so good, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be picking it for my book club next year because it was just so great. The ending was such a shock, and it was great. It was so good. And I will have a full review for you guys in January, so keep an eye out for that. Next we have The Darkest Star by Jennifer Armentrout, and this book was my most anticipated read for 2018, and it was really good. It is a spin-off series of Jennifer's Lux series, which is my all-time favorite series, so I was very excited to get my hands on this. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars, which means that this is the first Jennifer Armentrout book in the Lux series that I've given less than 5 stars. It's a good start, but I just wish that there were more romance in it. It was really well done because it is more realistic. It's not so insta-lovey, it is more realistic, and if you read it, it would all make sense of how it is still kind of insta-lovey, but not. But I don't know, it just didn't have enough for me, so I think I will give this 4 stars. It was really good, and I'm definitely going to keep reading more and more, but yes. So the next one's coming out in 2019, I believe in October as well. So I will be definitely getting my hands on that one and reading it. But yes, I'm a little sad. I really wanted to just give it 5 stars because I feel so bad giving this 4 stars, but I have to be honest and true. So it's gonna have to get 4 stars. Next was Deadfall by Stephen Wallenfels. This one, it was pretty good, but I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I will leave a link to my review below. I did only post it on the blog. I didn't do a video review for it, but it was really good. I read it all the way through. I enjoyed the read, but I just felt like the author maybe played it a little too safe. I think the author went in with the mindset of having this as a YA book and then played it a little too safe with some of the darker topics. It's about 2 brothers that are running away from home, and they find a girl in a trunk and just chaos ensues. And so it is told in alternating points of view from the past and the present. And it was so good, and it was well done. I like the writing style. I would probably definitely read another Stephen Wallenfels book, but I just felt like it played it too safe when it came to the darker topics of this book and what happened to this girl and what happened to these boys. But yeah, so it got 3 out of 5 just because I felt like it was good, but it wasn't good enough, and it could have been at least a 4-star book if it would have just taken it to that next level. And even though it is I only give it 3 out of 5 stars, that is pretty high for me because I usually don't get into books with a male narrator, but I was really able to relate to our main character, so it worked out pretty well, but still 3 out of 5. Next up are the 2 books that I got from the library, and the first one is Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison. So this one, I told you in my TBR video that I have had checked out for a while. It's been on my TBR for years. It's a older book. I believe it came out in 2004, and it's been on my TBR forever, and I finally picked it up from the library, and it's just been sitting in my house forever, and I used up all my renewals, and instead of trying to take it back and get it again, I decided to either read it or send it back in December. So I did start it, and it is an adult book, so I'm pretty particular on what adult books I will read. I really enjoy YA. YA is what's for me, so some adult books don't work for me, and this was one of them. I could tell right from the beginning that this just wasn't my style. The writing style was pretty good. The premise seemed interesting, but the pace was just so very slow. And that's what drives me crazy about adult books is I need that fast pace movement. And I don't even think I got through, maybe I did get through chapter 1, but very, very early on is when I figured out, no, this is just not for me because it was just too slow. And I know that it was the very beginning and maybe it get better as it goes on, but when it comes to adult, I try it and then hate it or love it and keep going. So this one was not for me. It's an older book anyways, so I will just try some newer adult paranormal books and hope for the best. Next was Hocus Pocus, the retelling of the original movie and the all-new sequel. So for this one, I did not finish it. I am just done with the original retelling. So the next part is the all-new sequel. So I really did enjoy it. It did seem for the most part pretty true to the original movie. I think that though is what kind of threw me. If you're a big fan of Hocus Pocus, which I said in my TBR, Hocus Pocus is not my favorite Halloween movie. I like it, but it's super cheesy and cringy, and I'm just a Nightmare Before Christmas girl. So if you really, really love the original Hocus Pocus movie, then you might really get into this because the retelling part is pretty true to the movie, like almost exactly. And that kind of like drives me crazy when they turn movies into books, is they stick way too close to the movie instead of like branching out and trying new things, which is totally okay, people. Just because it was done one way does not mean that it has to be done the same way every time. And I mean, you can tell from looking at this, like this 200 pages is the retelling, and then the next 300 is the all new sequel. So that is definitely the big difference between a movie and a book, is that there's much more in a book than there is the movie. So to just completely retell the movie basically verbatim doesn't really work for me. I did enjoy it, but I just wish that they would have done some original things. Like reading the movie is way creepier and slightly less cheesy than the movie. So I wish that they would have taken it to like the next level creepy, because like right in the beginning when they're talking about the witches taking Thackeray Binks' sister, it like was super creepy because you're not watching, you're reading it. And so I was like, okay, I think the author is going to go a different route from the movie and make this a little bit darker, and they didn't. It was completely true to the movie. So there were definitely some instances when I felt like just have some creative freedom and change it, but maybe the author wasn't allowed to. I don't know, because the movie is from Disney and the book is Disney Press, so I don't know. I don't know how much freedom the author had, but I wish that she did have the freedom or the courage or whatever to make it a little bit better. But I did still enjoy it. It has been a year since I watched the movie, so I'm not sure as like ending wise if it was like super straight to the movie. I think so, but again, I could be wrong. Like she might have changed some things for the ending, but yes. I think she had kind of had to, because there's a sequel, so I think it is slightly different towards the end. And one thing I just realized, because I did just finish the last 50 pages of the retelling, is that they talk about how the witches put the spell on the parents to dance until they die, and then they beat the witches, but they never talked about like going and saving the adults, because like the adults were still gone by the end, or going and saving the bullies. Like they should have saved the bullies. Like don't be a bully yourself. Just save the bullies so that they have to kiss your butt for the rest of your life. But yes, so in January I'm going to finish this, or I'm going to start the sequel and see if I like it. But overall, it was enjoyable, and I'm interested to see where it goes for the sequel, but yes, those are my thoughts. Next up is the book that I needed to read this month for my book club, and that is the graphic novel Blankets by Craig Thompson. This was a reread for me. I did read this like 5-ish years ago in college. So it was a reread. I did know everything going into it, but I did forget a good chunk of like how in depth this book goes when it comes to more mature topics. It is a YA, and most of my book club members are adults, but still I feel like I should have reread it first before assigning it, and maybe just like give them some warnings, because this book is older. It doesn't have any trigger warnings in it, and there are some things that nowadays would have trigger warnings. It does have some wordage issues when it comes to those who have Down syndrome, and I don't know, like when I was reading it, I just like, oh, I wonder if I should have read this first and either just, I don't think I would have not picked it, but I think I would have just like given them a couple warnings, like remember that this book was written a couple of years ago, and here's some trigger warnings just in case, and yeah. So I'm interested to see what my book club members thought. This was my first ever experience with graphic novels, and it opened me up to graphic novels. So I wanted to pick it just to see if they would enjoy it and have the same experience that I did. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I did still really enjoy it, but now, now that the world has changed, it is a little like, ugh. But that's what happens in books, as we all know. That's what happens. Next, we have Dumplin' by Julie Murphy. This one I did not finish, but I did start it. I just started it yesterday while at work, and oh my goodness, it is so good. So I did watch the movie first because I know that the books are always better, and yeah, I knew that if I read the book first and then watched the movie, I was going to have a problem with the movie. So I watched the movie first and then started listening to the audiobook. And the movie was really, really good. My only problem with the movie was the guy that played Bo. He was much older than 17. I know that actors are usually older than the characters they're playing, especially when it comes to teen movies, but he was definitely much older than 17. I could not stop staring at his super hairy arms, which I talked to some coworkers who also watched it, and they didn't even notice, but then when I mentioned it, they were like, yeah, he does look a lot older than 17 now that I'm thinking back on it. I would have been fine with it if Bo was supposed to be like in his 20s, like an older guy, a college boy that she was talking to with those hairy arms. But then when she mentioned about him being in high school, I was like, no, that doesn't work. So it just kind of like threw me for the whole movie. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie. It was really good, and I had a great experience. So I wanted to start the audiobook. So yesterday at work, I work at a library, and I was off the desk for the entire day. So I was in the back working on things. And so I decided to pop in my earbuds and listen to an audiobook while working, and I started Dumplin', and oh my goodness, I've only listened to 2 hours of it so far, but it is so good and so much better than the movie. I'm so happy that I didn't listen to it first, because I would have ended up hating the movie. So far, it is great. The audiobook is amazing. The narrator has a southern accent, just like Willow Dean does in the movie, and it's just so good, so authentic, and gosh, there's so much more in this movie than there was in the book. And so far, I am really liking Bo. They really go into depth more with him and Willow Dean's relationship in the book. It's totally different than what it is in the movie, and so I'm really enjoying it. Right now, we're mad at Bo, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The only thing I wish, and it's something that audiobooks have started, well, I guess not, because a few years ago I think I read an audiobook that had one in it, but something I wish that the audiobook had was the soundtrack from the movie, because the songs played such a key part in the movie. While I was watching it, I was always singing along to all of the Dolly Parton songs, and they talk about Dolly Parton so much. That's like, one of the biggest, not a plot point, but like biggest characteristics of Dumplin' in the movie and the book is her love of Dolly Parton. And so they keep mentioning Dolly Parton and mentioning different songs, and I just wish that they would have put that soundtrack into the audiobook, because it would have made it so much better. So I don't know if maybe like from now on I will like listen to the soundtrack while listening to the audiobook, because it would make it just so much better. But it is seriously so good. I'll definitely be finishing it up in January. And yes, if you have not watched or read Dumplin', you need to do both. Watch the movie first, because you're going to end up hating it if you read the book first. I can already tell, and I've only listened to 2 hours of it. So yes. Next, we have How to Experience Death for Beginners by Jessica Branton. This one is a book that I requested from Edelweiss, and I really wanted to read it because I have such a big problem when using Edelweiss and NetGalley, where I request things and then I don't read them, or it takes me forever to read them. So I really wanted to get this done, but unfortunately I only started it and didn't finish, but I am planning on finishing in January. I don't know if I'm going to get all the way through it though, which is like pretty sad. I was very, very excited to pick this one up and read it because it sounds like the premise of an adult book, but it's YA, which is like the biggest reason why I requested it. It's about a girl who relives the last moments of people's deaths, and she has decided to help out the FBI in order to find this murderer. And I've only read a couple pages. I don't think I'm past chapter 1 yet, but so far the beginning it's like okay. It's a little slow. I'm not really liking the writing style just yet, but I am going to keep reading and try and get at least halfway through before DNFing it. So we shall see. I really hope it ends up being really good because I was so excited to get this and read it. So I will keep you updated on that next month. The next one is another book that I requested from Edelweiss, and that is Even If I Fall by Abigail Johnson. This one I requested because I thought that it might make a good book club pick for either next year or 2020. And I only read 50% of it because I wanted to see if I wanted to pick it for book club. So I didn't want to read it all the way through and then like kind of spoil it for book club. It's going to be a while before I can read it because I already have pretty much all of 2019 picked already. So I've only read half of it, but it was really, really good, the half that I did read. So I have to wait because it doesn't release until January, so I have to wait and see how many libraries pick it up in order to pick it for the book club. So if enough do, then I'm definitely going to be picking it. I'm just not sure if it'll be 2019 or 2020 when we actually read it. So either way, I'm picking it for book club. It was really good. It's about a girl whose brother kills his best friend, and he is now in prison after he confessed to the murder, and now his sister is dealing with all the repercussions. They live in a small town, so she's dealing with all the issues from her previous friends and townspeople and other people judging her and her family based on her brother's actions. And she befriends the brother of the boy that her brother killed. They become friends and help each other deal with each other's, I guess, feelings is the best way to put it, dealing with what happened. And so I just got to the point where some things are about to come out about the murder, and it kind of seems like maybe her brother didn't do it. I don't know. I stopped at the 50% point, so it just started to like really kick it into high gear at that point. So I'm very, very excited to finish it. And yes, I cannot wait. It's definitely going to be a book club book, and I'm really excited that I grabbed it. Sounds like my husband just finished a shower, so it should be a little bit quieter in here. Next up is That's Not What Happened by Cody Keplinger. This one I requested from Edelweiss, I think like back in the summer. So I wanted to try and read it this month so that it is done and out of my hair. I need to get better at what I'm requesting. So, no, I didn't even start it. I didn't even have time to even start this one. So I'm definitely going to be trying to start and finish it in January, but we shall see. I really love Cody Keplinger. I wanted to read another one of hers. I've only read The Duff, and it was amazing. So I've been wanting to read another Cody Keplinger book. And when I saw this one, which is about a darker topic, it's about a school shooting that happens, and supposedly this girl's friend, she professed her faith of God right before she was killed, and her friend was in the bathroom with her when she was killed and knows that that's not exactly what happened, and the girl's parents are going to write a book about it. So she's trying to deal with, should I just stay silent and let her parents go through with it, or should I come clean and say that's not really what happened and deal with the fallback of that. So it sounds really, really good, and I want to read it, so hopefully in January I will get to it. So now let's get into the books that I actually did read in order to finish my challenge, because I believe I was like 4 books away from my challenge at this point, so I needed to find something else to read, and I didn't want to force myself to read the other books that I either started and didn't finish. I want to read for what I want to read. I want to do more of pleasure reading. So not reading because I have to or because I started it and I need to finish it, but reading whatever I'm in the mood for. So even though there was one book on here that I did not even begin, and I still needed to read and finish 4 books for the year, I didn't want to force myself to finish the ones I did start or to read something that I just wasn't in the mood for. So here are the books that I actually did read in order to complete my Goodreads challenge. All of these were either books that I have previously started and wanted to finish, or graphic novels or short stories. So I did read more than I needed to in order to complete my challenge, just because I feel like, to me, they're like cheater books because they were shorter books than I originally planned on. So yes, there are more than I actually needed, but to me, I feel better about completing my challenge by reading a couple more since they were all very short. The first one is The Package by Jennifer Armentrout. This one is a novella or a prequel, kind of. I'm really not sure what to call it. It's like number 1.25 in the series or something of the Luck series. And so this one I was sent because I pre-ordered The Darkest Star, so they sent me the package as a bonus gift. It's a never been released or read before short story from the series, and so I did read that one. It was very, very short, very, very quick. I think like maybe under 50 pages. So I counted it for Goodreads because I did read it and it's on Goodreads, but I wasn't gonna like fully count that as reading one whole book. I feel bad about doing that, so yes, so I kept going after this one. But it was really, really good. It did like get me back into the mood of the Luck series, even though I was never out of the mood, but it just like re-triggered some memories of the Luck series before I started The Darkest Star. Next up is Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham. This one I started a while ago, like I think in like May, like at the beginning of 2018 I started it, and then I didn't finish it, and I only had 2 hours left of the audiobook, so I really, really wanted to finish it, but boy, do I kind of wish that I would have read the physical book instead of listening to the audiobook, because that's the whole reason why I stopped. Lauren Graham is amazing. I absolutely love her. The book was super interesting, but she does talk crazy fast, and so the audiobook was just like kind of like annoying, even though like she is the narrator of the audiobook, which is amazing, and she does talk super fast, and it's the name of the book, but it just like, to listen to that for 4 straight hours is a lot. And so I had to stop when I started it, and then I wanted to finally finish it, and since I needed to finish something in order to complete my Goodreads challenge, I decided to go ahead and finish it, and it was seriously really, really good. I didn't have as many issues as I did when I read the first half. Maybe I just wasn't into it as much because she talks about from Gilmore Girls to Gilmore Girls and everything in between. So the first half, it did kind of focus more on like her early career and the first Gilmore Girls. So it was interesting, but it just like didn't like completely grip me, and the talking so fast kind of like got to me, so I stopped it and decided to finish it later. So when I picked it back up, I already like had that in my head that this is how it's going to be, so it was actually a lot easier to listen to it for the second time, and it was really, really good. I am really happy that I listened to it. It was very interesting, and there's some things that she mentioned about the second Gilmore Girls. What do you call this? But there's things that she mentioned in it that I now want to go back and rewatch them for the things that she talked about, because it was just so cool, and like little things I didn't even like catch, and things that she mentioned. And she talked about, there's something in Hollywood called the last 4 words, and it's like basically for things that are like a big deal, like series that end, people pay attention to what the last 4 words are of that show or movie. And so it's supposed to be like very impactful, especially to the screenplay writer. Those last 4 words are very important. That's the last 4 words that are ever going to be said. And so she mentions the last 4 words of this one was like a little confusing, because to her she was like, this doesn't sound like a conclusion, this sounds like there could be more later. And nobody would answer her on whether or not there are going to be more Gilmore Girls in the future, which everyone hopes that there are, especially me. But I can't remember what those last 4 words are, and she wouldn't say them because she didn't want to spoil it in case you haven't watched them. So now I need to go back and see what they are, and instead of Googling it, I think I just want to rewatch them because I absolutely love Gilmore Girls. So I'll be rewatching those soon. But yeah, it was really good. I think I would probably give this probably 4 stars, because if I would have physically read it, I would have loved it. And the audiobook wasn't awful, but it was just a lot. It was a lot to listen to her talk that fast for that long. So it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. Next up is another one that I started a while back and finally decided to finish, and that is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This one, I believe I was sent in order to read and review it. I've always wanted to read a Neil Gaiman. I absolutely love the movie Coraline, and I really want to read that one. And actually for Christmas, I did receive the graphic novel of Coraline, so I'll probably be reading that sometime soon. But yes, The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I did start this physically, and then I decided to finish it by listening to the audiobook. And I kind of wish that I would have just read the audiobook from the get-go, because it was done really, really well. The narrator had a great voice. He did really good with the other characters' voices, and especially at the end with the cleaners, his voice for the cleaners was really scary. So this book was like really interesting. It's Neil Gaiman, like his mind is just like kind of nuts, and I don't really know like where he even came up with this. It was just like crazy, and this all like happens to a 7-year-old, and it was just nuts. It was pretty good. I think I'm gonna give this one probably 4 stars. I did enjoy it, but I didn't like love it, and I'll definitely be checking out some more Neil Gaiman. The rest of the books that I read to finish my challenge are graphic novels that I grabbed from my local library. So the first one is The Bad Guys by Aaron Blabey, or Blabey. I'm really not sure how to say his name, but this is about a bunch of, like famous bad guys that decide to become the good guys. So it follows a wolf, a shark, a snake, and a piranha. And there are more in the series. I think at least 2 more, but it was like pretty good and pretty cute. I think I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was cute, but I thought, especially for like how long it is a juvenile graphic novel, but I just figured for how long it was that it would have been just like a little bit more up there with like those kind of like subtle adult jokes that are usually in kids things. So I thought, with how long it was, that this was supposed to be for like upper elementary age, so I figured there'd be a little bit more like sarcasm and like silly things, but this was really geared towards like much younger kids who are like just getting into graphic novels. But I really did enjoy it. It was cute. I don't know if I'm going to continue on, but it was a cute read. And the last ones that I read are the Hilda and the series by Luke Pearson. I did just randomly pick up the ones that were available at my library, which ended up being books 1, 2, and 4, but I didn't know that that's what I picked up until after I already read them. So I read them like totally, I think actually I read them completely backwards. I think I read 4, 2, 1. But they were actually really, really good. I'm definitely going to be reading more of these. This is another juvenile graphic novel series, and it was just so, so good. They're all about a girl named Hilda who lives in this world where fantasy creatures are like the norm. Like everybody knows about them, and it's just totally normal for her to come across trolls and giants and, you know, sprites and, you know, other things. So it was really, really, really cool. The artwork is really good. I'll show you some of it. It is just so, so cool. I absolutely loved it. And I did read them backwards, so my ratings are like kind of backwards. My favorite one was definitely number 4, which is Hilda and the Black Hound, and my least favorite was number 1, Hilda and the Troll. But it's just because, like, as they go on, they get a little bit longer, more in depth, and also the drawings get a lot better. Like, Hilda looks super different from book 1 to book 4. So let me show you. So here is Hilda in book 1, and then here's Hilda in book 4. So for the most part, she is pretty much the same, but like the drawing style and like how in depth, like there's so many more. Do you just call these squares? I don't know very much about comics or graphic novels, but it just, there's a whole lot more. Book 4 is like so much longer and more in depth and more interesting, and the artwork is just beautiful in book 4 than compared to book 1. But I did enjoy all of them. I'll definitely be reading book 3, the missing book, and you don't have to read them in order. I didn't. I was gonna look it up and I decided just to go with it because there aren't any volume numbers on the sides, but those could be under the library labeling. So I just decided to just read whatever was in front of me, and I read them backwards, but it actually didn't really matter. They do mention, like, maybe on like the very first page, like there'll be like a sentence or like a word that kind of like reverts back to the previous book of something that may have happened, but other than that, it's a completely standalone book. So I really, really enjoyed these. They were so, so good, and I'll definitely be reading more of the Hilda series. I absolutely love them. 5 stars for book 4 and 2. I did give 4 stars to book 1 just because it was a bit shorter, and it just kind of, like, it was good. It was a good start. So I think if I would have read this first, maybe I would have given, and I think I still would have given it 4 stars because it just wasn't amazing. But the next ones after it are really, really good, and they just get better and better as it goes on. So I will definitely be picking up more of those. And yeah, I'm very happy that I ended up picking up some graphic novels in order to finish my challenge, because I may have never even read Hilda. So it was really good. Alright guys, that is everything that I have for you of what I read in December. I did finish my Goodreads challenge. I read more than my Goodreads challenge just because I did decide to do some finishing up in graphic novels and short stories in order to finish it. So I felt like I should do more just so I can like justify it to myself that I actually completed my challenge. The next video that I have for you guys is my 2018 in review. So I'll be talking about my top 5 favorite books, my top 5 least favorite books, as well as my New Year's resolutions, and going over how well I actually did on my Goodreads challenge. So be sure to check out that video. I have so much in store for you guys for 2019. I cannot wait. I'm having so much fun making these videos for you guys. So I hope that you also enjoy them, and I will see you guys later. Bye.